Department of Catastrophe, the Silver Path, case file 0004, user not registered with reality. I sat on the bench and stared at nothing. The wood creaked beneath me like it wanted to file a complaint, but didn't have the heart to follow through. The stained glass windows above glowed in saintly disapproval, their colors bleeding across the floor in tidy squares of judgment. The system had won. I admitted it, out loud, the kind of defeat that doesn't echo. It just hums inside your chest until you mistake burnout for inner peace. I pretended to cry, not because anyone was watching. There wasn't a soul within 10 yalms, but because it felt like the kind of moment that demanded a performance. The silence was heavy, bureaucratic, and deeply administrative, the kind that required signatures and triplicate before allowing grief. Even the ether pulse wants an awkward sympathy before deciding it wasn't qualified to help. That's when I heard it, a sigh so precise, so aggressively disappointed, it could only belong to someone who had once written an apocalypse memo in bullet points. This, Lahabrea said finally, voice lined with quiet venom of divine management, is unexpected. What is? You, he said, equal parts fascination and impending lawsuit. She summons you, and you refuse her call. No one refuses her call. When she speaks, mortals drop everything. Faith, free will, sometimes their lunch, and obey. You, however, ignored her voice entirely. No one ignores the voice. And now this, he gestured vaguely, the air flickering with bureaucratic static. You're giving up. Sitting there like resignation is a life goal. I expected fire, drama, a small explosion at least. But no, you've chosen paperwork silence. He sounded genuinely betrayed, as if I'd failed a divine audition. I ran out. Of fight? Of everything. To be fair, the moment she called, something deep inside me had already rolled its eyes. Resistance wasn't heroic, it was instinct, like swatting at a mosquito made of light. The voice, the pull, the promise, all of it felt familiar in the worst way, like deja vu from a bad job orientation. Even this world wasn't new, it was just under new management. Hydaelyn's summons wasn't guidance, it was a firmware update I had not consented to. He went silent long enough for the air to start questioning its existence. The ether pulsed once, nervously, like it wanted to file a report but didn't know who to address it to. Then Lahabrea spoke again, his tone soft but deeply offended. I've spent eons erasing her chosen, he said as though reading from his performance review, but you made me hesitate. That's never happened before. It's unsanctioned. Frankly, it's disgusting. He exhaled hard enough to ruffle the concept of patient itself. Come upstairs. We'll talk. What? It's a very simple series of mortal actions, he said with a patience that felt manufactured. You stand up, you walk up the stairs, you sit at the first table you see when you go around the banister. Think of it as divine customer service. You're telling me to move? Yes, because apparently that's the only miracle you're capable of right now. There was a beat of silence. You have questions, he added, leaning on the words like they hurt to admit. And I have confusion. Let's fix one of those before I decide this was a mistake. For now, that followed carried all the permanence of an expired warranty, but I stood anyway. The stairs waited, polished by centuries of adventurers pretending they had purpose, and I climbed slowly, the kind of slow reserved for souls with lag spikes and no save points. Halfway up, the air shifted. For a flicker, I saw something that wasn't the canopy. A war, bright, loud, and profoundly unwanted. Souls ripped from bodies that turned to ash before gravity could process the invoice. Screaming, death, the familiar deja vu of anyone who's lived through the apocalypse twice. I clutched the railing like it was tech support, trying to reconnect to reality. Spoiler, it didn't help. Upstairs waited Gridania's fake peace in all its moss-scented, morally superior glory. The light was soft, dappled aggressively wholesome. Adventurers moved like background processes, laughing, eating, blissfully unaware of the metaphysical crisis unfolding 3 tables away, except one. The Ellison, dead center, posture immaculate, expression fixed somewhere between condescension and tax audit. Come here, he said, and the sound was wrong in the way perfume smells wrong when it's secretly embalming fluid. Why doesn't he scare me? Why do I even want to listen? This is exactly how cults start. Lahabrea? Why do I want his approval more than his scorn? Is this trauma bonding? He smiled, or at least the body he was renting did. You're late. I didn't realize I had an appointment. You do now, and when I tell someone to do something, I expect instant compliance. He gestured toward the chair opposite. Sit, before this body remembers it's unionized. I sat carefully. So are we done pretending this is normal? This world is normal, he said, with the confident delusion of a man who's never filled out an incident report. You, child, are not. He adjusted his cuffs, Lahabrea's favorite punctuation. The council wanted to intercept and erase the next of her chosen. Instead, I found you, telling Hydaelyn no like she was a telemarketer. No hesitation, no fear, just a stubborn spark that refused to kiss the divine ring. You're a question mark, and I don't like punctuation. I'm flattered? Don't be. Elizabeth might find you fascinating, but the rest would drop a moon on you and call it balance. Charming colleagues. Oh, they are. I attend endless meetings about how to destroy what she creates, and then you show up, refusing the call of the goddess like you're unsubscribing from cosmic spam. It's impressive, in a suicidal way. She asked for faith. I don't have any to give her. He tilted the Ellison head, studying me like a toaster that suddenly achieved sentience. Hydaelyn doesn't ask. She manufactures. Her champions are factory presets. But you resisted before the system finished booting. How? Maybe I'm defective. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that says, I hate that I like this. Defective implies a design. You're something else. You merged with a mortal shell when you fell here. A local model, limited warranty, powered by emotional instability. It's stabilizing you, but it's also rewriting you. The longer you stay, the more this world believes you belong. It's adorable, in a catastrophic way. They are my memories. This body, it is mine, but I can't give you answers for any of it. Not yet. He blinked once, somewhere between curiosity and midlife crisis. Fantastic. An immortal enigma with imposter syndrome. Exactly what the multiverse needed. Delightful. She can't track what she doesn't understand, and right now, she doesn't understand you. I find that professionally satisfying. You almost sound proud of that. I'm curious. It's been ages since I didn't know how something worked. I hate the feeling. I also miss it. Great. Glad to be your science project. Don't flatter yourself. You're a walking software bug, but a fascinating one. You remind me of her. Hydaelyn? No, the last 14th. The one who thought neutrality could save the star. It didn't, but the effort was adorable. You almost sound like you miss her. She is the last member of the 14th we haven't found. But that is not your concern. What happens now? If you become her champion, we'll fight, and then you'll die. If you don't become her champion, you'll live long enough to regret everything. Think of it as professional development. Who you fight for is up to you, but keep your resistance quiet. She doesn't handle rejection well. And you do? I've had practice. Several failed relationships, a few wars, the usual. Do you even remember what you were doing before all of this? A failed calamity. More than one. Too many soldiers, too many souls ripped out of bodies that never even hit the ground. It never stopped. Light, dark, none of it mattered when everything ended in ash. He blinked. The sarcasm faltered, the cosmic mask slipped. Then maybe that's why you refused her. You're tired of endings that never end. You saw the loop and decided to log out. Maybe. Or maybe you were never hers to begin with. You need to learn why you're fighting her and yourself. For now, talk to everyone in this room. I hate talking to people. Yes, and that's precisely why you're here. If you want to walk around in the flesh again, visible, functional, marginally employable, you'll do as I say. You're not what I was sent to deal with. And I don't kill what I don't understand, not without a committee vote. The Ellison's borrowed eyes flickered. The light behind them dimmed as Lahabrea's presence ebbed away. The body blinked once, confused, then looked past me like I wasn't there. Typical. I leaned back, staring at the half-empty mug between us. So this is mentorship. Excellent. The table of four radiated the kind of energy found only in people who decided that personal growth was optional. They sat there, mid-quest, mid-meal, midlife crisis, perfectly preserved in Gridanian stagnation. Celestine was first to notice me, or rather to notice that I was within range of her boredom. Gridania is so unbearably dull. Everyone talks about trees and elementals. Yes, it's a real mystery where they get the inspiration. I should move somewhere exciting. Ulda has gold. Lemza has pirates. Here, we have sap. And pollen and seasonal allergies. Truly paradise denied. Next to her sat Lurik, who looked like he'd been trying to escape this conversation for years by slowly turning into furniture. The cuisine may be uneventful, but I've grown fond of this place. That's tragic. He wasn't deterred. The people are honest. The women, especially such grace, such beauty. Somewhere in the void, Lahabrea groaned audibly. I told you, they multiply by dialogue. I stared at Lurik. Charming. Try that line again after she poisons your ale. Lurik blinked, possibly reconsidering the concept of women altogether. On the far side, Tatasosa the Lalafell had been conducting a private war against a loaf of bread. Crunch echoed like divine thunder. Without looking up, he mumbled, "Shouldn't you be crunch talking to Mother Miqo'te? Crunch, crunch." I had never felt more judged by a pastry. Thank you. Your wisdom has changed my life. Truly, I am reborn in the crumbs of your insight. He answered with another crunch. Philosophical, really. Then Spinning Blade, the Ragadan mountain beside him, rumbled to life. They say the corruption in the wood makes beasts stronger, meaner. I look forward to meeting them. Ah, a motivational speaker. He grinned, the kind of grin that made me question fire safety regulations. I swing axe. Problem go away. That's one approach. Therapy's another. Celestine sighed again, as if powered by Ane itself. Lurik leaned back to practice smoldering. Tatasosa munched his way into enlightenment. Spinning Blade looked ready to wrestle the concept of forestry. I found the beating heart of Gridania, seasonal depression with table service. Lahabrea's voice hummed faintly in my head. Talk to everyone, remember. Progress requires suffering. Consider me progressing at an alarming rate. Celestine looked up. Sorry, what? Exactly, I said, and retreated before boredom achieved sentience. The next table radiated the eerie calm of people who have been politely ignoring existence for several centuries. Two adventurers sat frozen in place, mugs half raised, expressions carefully calibrated to mid-conversation, like background actors waiting for their cue from God, who had clearly gone on break. I approached. Nothing. No movement, no blink, no acknowledgement. Just a faint smell of soup and commitment issues. Hello? You're in a story now. Silence. I waved a hand in front of their faces. Nothing. I crouched. Still nothing. Perfect. NPC Purgatory, my favorite genre. That's when the voice slithered back into my head, smooth, irritated, and shaped like unpaid overtime. You're not fully integrated into the host body yet. Some individuals won't be able to perceive you. Excuse me, integrated? I'm not a plug-in. Those who can partially perceive you will respond in fragments. Those with visible nameplates can see you completely. I see. And the rest? White nameplates are off limits. Why? They're under the jurisdiction of the other department. Other department? Do you hear how insane you sound? You make reality sound like a tax office. That's because it is. If you want interaction, fine, I'll give you interaction. Before the voice could file an official complaint, I climbed up onto the table. Plates clattered, coffee rippled, the adventurers didn't blink. I raised one arm, struck a pose, and started dancing. Badly, defiantly, cosmically. Stop that immediately. You're making the ether uncomfortable. Good, maybe it'll develop empathy. The pair continued to stare through me, serene as furniture. You're behaving irrationally. I've been alive for 5 minutes and haunted by management. Rationality is above my pay grade. A long pause, the kind of silence that implies divine pinching of the bridge of the nose. This was not in the job description. Neither was being ignored by the undead brunch club. The mugs wobbled, the plates rattled, still not a soul moved. I call that performance art. The voice excelled. A sound so weary it might have aged the building. You're insufferable, you. Now we're making progress. Somewhere in the rafters, a light flickered. It might have been divine disapproval. It might have been an applause. I hopped down from the table, breath catching in my throat. Apparently, this new body came with all the grace of a retired potato. My legs ached. My lungs filed a formal complaint. And somewhere in my chest, my soul quietly uninstalled motivation. Lahabrea's voice returned, smug enough to file its own paperwork. Told you so. You're not acclimated. Your body strength hasn't finished sinking. I'd thank you for being right, but I'm morally opposed to giving you the satisfaction. Noted. I dusted myself off and glanced around. Sitting or lying down wasn't going to fix this mess, which meant one thing: social interaction. The horror. The next two figures stood, and in one case perched, near a stack of crates like they were guarding the last remaining budget for this city's infrastructure. A tired-looking soldier leaned on his sword with the confidence of a man whose ambitions had long since been smothered by regulation, and beside him, a small person with the face of a child accountant was swinging his legs, judging the world. I approached cautiously, like one does when confronting wild bureaucracy. The armored one gave me a look that said, "I've already regretted this." "New in town, eh?" "You and me both. Takes a special kind of traveler to walk willingly into a city that smells like moss and disappointment." "That's encouraging. Do you all rehearse these greetings, or is the cynicism just part of the air quality?" "You'll get used to it. Eventually the trees start talking to you, then you move." Before I could reply, the little one spoke up without looking away from his invisible spreadsheet. "I came here thinking I'd make a fortune. Turns out even in the middle of nowhere, you still have to work and get lucky. Imagine that. I keep waiting for a world where profit grows on trees. All we have here are trees." "That's because they unionized." "That explains the attitude." "Don't mind him. He's been trying to turn photosynthesis into a business plan. And how's that going?" "Terribly. The trees refuse to negotiate. Something about ancient pacts and stop stapling tax forms to our roots." Lahabrea's voice cut through again, dry as divine toast. "This conversation is a crime against narrative flow." "Good. Maybe the universe will finally press charges." That's when I noticed it. I wasn't standing anymore. I was sitting on air. My knees bent perfectly, hands resting on nothing. You're floating." "I'm what now?" "You're sitting on nothing." I looked down. Indeed, the laws of physics had simply decided to take their lunch break. Lahabrea groaned. "Marvelous. You've broken the gravity subsystem. Again." "How is that my fault? I barely touched reality." "Exactly." Najiro leaned back, unimpressed. "Can you do taxes from up there?" "I could commit murder from up here." He shrugged. "Worth a shot." Arrow folded his arms tighter, muttering something about rookie adventurers and cursed insurance claims. I floated a little higher out of spite. "Don't look at me like that. I'm adjusting." "You're glitching," Lahabrea corrected. "And for the record, that's not an ability. That's an HR violation." "Then file it. I'm already airborne." He sighed. The sound of an eternity losing patience. "You are not the reason this world breaks. But you are certainly a contributing factor." "Thanks. I try." I decided to walk it off, mostly because floating had become a safety hazard, and partially because I didn't trust Lahabrea not to turn it into a lecture on etheric misconduct. The next table sat under a stained glass window that looked like it had been handcrafted by someone with unresolved issues about sunlight. Two adventurers sat there, utterly motionless, staring into the warm glow of a single lantern like it contained all the answers to life's mediocrity. More broken locals. The green-clad one stared blankly into his cup. The blue one mirrored him. Two men synchronized in the art of nothing. "Hello? Anyone alive? Blink twice if you're trapped in a loading screen." Silence. The air shifted, and Lahabrea's voice slipped through like static, dressed as sarcasm. "Told you. You're not fully integrated yet. These people cannot perceive you." "You keep saying that like I'm a faulty toaster." "You are. A semi-corporeal appliance running on spite. Till you finish merging with your host form, certain entities will remain unaware of you. Think of them as background furniture." "Then why do they get nice lighting?" "Because the world prioritizes decorum over function." I stepped closer to the table. The men still didn't move. Their faces stayed perfectly neutral, the expression of people perpetually waiting for their quest flag to activate. This is getting weird. Should I poke them? Don't. Why not? You might unpause them. It sounded like a threat. I sat down instead, directly beside one of them, and to my mild surprise, the bench held. "You know," I said to no one, "for a reality that's apparently allergic to my existence, the furniture's doing a great job pretending." "That's not furniture. That's an unacknowledged instance of you. You're currently sitting on your own projected form." "So I'm my own seat?" "Temporarily, yes." "That's horrifying." "Welcome to integration." "So let me get this straight. I'm talking to Ghost, sitting on myself, and only half of reality knows I exist. Correct. Cool. Just checking." I slumped against the table, face half lit by the lantern's glow. The adventurers didn't react. One blinked, maybe, but that could have just been the light trying to keep up with my existential velocity. You know, at this point, I tank being haunted by a socially competent ghost. "You're haunted by me." "Exactly my point." "You're broken until you're fully synchronized. Try not to make it worse. Define worse. You'll know when the floor starts rejecting you again." I looked down suspicious. The wood creaked. Ominous. "Noted." I approached the next nameplate with the caution usually reserved for cursed relics and tax auditors. He stood off to the side, arms crossed, wearing an apron that implied cook, but a knife that screamed culinary homicide. The man radiated the weary authority of someone who'd seen too many beginners explode during dinner prep. "Ah, a new adventurer." You say that like it's a terminal diagnosis. In most cases it is. Tell me, have you made a will? That's a strong opener. I find it saves time. Most of you starry-eyed recruits run out there swinging your borrowed weapons at wildlife that's been killing things professionally for generations. Then they drag your boots back here and ask me what to do with the rest. That's comforting. Good, you'll need it. Comfort's cheaper than armor. You don't seem like the inspirational type. I was an inspirational type. Once. Then I inspired a group to fight a Goobu with spoons. And? Now I make wills. Lahabrea's voice filtered through the back of my skull like someone shaking a snow globe full of judgment. He's right, you know. Statistically speaking, your odds of survival are... Don't. If you say grim, I swear I'll trip over something on purpose. Fine. Call it professionally discouraging. Are you talking to yourself? Constantly! It's a team effort. You'll fit right in then. Gridania is full of people having meaningful conversations with the air. Yeah, I've noticed. He crossed his arms again, gaze softening. Just slightly, like a knight deciding it might not stab today. If you're still alive by sundown, come back. I'll add you to the maybe competent list. That's a real list? No, but it keeps morale up. I hadn't even taken 3 steps toward the counter before I felt it. The sensation of being observed. Not in the casual, you're in a public space way, but in the someone's tracking your hitbox way. I stopped. Both men turned their heads in eerie unison. The one in green, the smith, because apparently creativity in this town was optional, watched me with the faint, polite interest of a man trying to determine whether I was lost or cursed. Beside him, Bod's gaze followed me too, expression fixed somewhere between suspicion and I've seen this movie and it doesn't end well. I stepped left. Their heads turned left. I stepped right. They followed. Up, down, circle. Both pairs of eyes tracked every motion like a synchronized theater performance titled Predator and Prey, the musical. Finally, Bod broke burst. What in the 12 are you doing? I blinked innocently. Testing your AI. The what? Your, adaptive awareness field. He frowned. You mean my eyes? Yeah, that. Smith tilted his head slightly, his voice calm, reverent. The kind of tone priests use before exorcism. You're aware that you're being watched? Constantly, mostly by you. He and Bod exchanged a look, the universal signal for, we might need an adult. Lahabrea's voice slithered back into my mind, dry as dust. Technically, they're responding to your presence data. You're flickering between visible and metaphysical states, confusing their perception scripts. In common language, please. You're haunting them. Oh, neat. Bod took a weary step back. Is she smiling at nothing? Smith folded his arms. That depends. Did the nothing smile back? I raised a finger. It might have. He sighed. Mother Mion really needs to start screening recruits for whatever this is. Lahabrea sounded unhelpfully pleased. Well, at least they can see you now. Integration's improving. Fantastic. Now I can traumatize people in high definition. Bod cleared his throat, returning to his default level of tired disdain. Look, adventurer, maybe just go outside, touch grass, fight a squirrel, something. Smith nodded gravely. Yes, interaction with local fauna will be a fine step in your journey. Lahabrea, do avoid dying immediately. It reflects poorly on my supervision. I thought you didn't supervise me. I don't. I just enjoy watching the paperwork pile up. Bod groaned. You're still talking to yourself. Yes, and the voices are unionizing. The receptionist looked like he'd already used up his lifetime supply of patience. The woman across from him, meanwhile, looked ready to declare war on the concept of hospitality itself. I care not one whit for your rules. I demand a room. And I demand a functioning society, madam. Yet here we stand, 2 dreamers screaming into the void. I hovered nearby, quite literally flickering between frames like an overworked ether lantern. She didn't notice me. Most people couldn't. I was basically the world's worst screensaver. You can't refuse me lodging. I can, and I'm doing it right now. Observe. He gestured vaguely toward the ledger where nothing changed. See? Refusal complete. Lahabrea's voice oozed into my skull like unwanted software updates. She can't see you because your corporeal stability is erratic. Erratic? I'm blinking like a broken traffic light. And I've metaphor. You're basically a haunting with performance issues. The woman slammed the counter again. Do you know who I am? Cautionary tale in progress? I like him. When she finally stormed off, muttering about right into the 12, as if they accepted complaints, the clerk let out a slow, exhausted breath that probably carried the weight of several doomed centuries. He looked straight through me, then around me, then finally at me. Ah, another one. Wonderful. Another what? Transient apparition. The Academy's had 3 this week. You lot keep shorting the lamps. I'm not. Okay, maybe a little. Until you stop blinking like a cursed chandelier, you're not staying in my inn. Why not? Because last time, one of you phased halfway through the mattress, and it took 6 conjurers and a mop to fix it. Lahabrea chuckled softly in the back of my mind. To be fair, that was impressive. Shut up. The clerk folded his arms, the smile of a man long past caring. If you're seeking a room, try existing at a consistent frame rate first, then we'll talk. I'll add that to my to-do list. Right after understand physics. Welcome to Gridania. We don't do exorcism after dusk. Lahabrea ever helpful at it, he's not wrong. You're still under warranty, though. Of course I am. The counter clerk Gontran, according to his nameplate and his general aura of underpaid authority, looked like the kind of man who'd survived 40 years of paperwork and lost every emotion except mild disdain. The 2 adventurers ahead of me were debating the nature of employment like philosophers who'd failed their ethics check. They had found us the perfect job. Don't tell me. Squirrels again. Giant squirrels. That's worse. Lahabrea's voice drifted into my skull, dry as tax audit. Truly mortal ambition knows no ceiling. Shut up. I'm trying to look employable. My turn came, and Gontran's gaze landed on me. His eyes widened just slightly, the reflex of a man trying to decide if he's hallucinating or being haunted. Another adventurer, I think? Though you appear to be flickering. I'm between solid states. It's a medical condition. Yes, well, until you stop phasing through furniture, I'm afraid you don't qualify for licensed adventuring. Guild policy states you must exist in at least 3 dimensions before I can issue credentials. That's discriminatory. It's paperwork. If you want to file a complaint, please do so in writing and in corporeal form. She's new. Yes, you can always tell the new ones. They're either sparkle, flicker, or scream during their registration oath. I don't scream. Not externally, Lahabrea noted. Gontran exhaled the sigh of a man who's had this conversation at least once a week since the calamity. Look, until you're legally alive in the guild's registry, you're ranked E. Ephemeral. That means no contracts, no bounties, and no combat pay. E for excellent? He looked me dead in the eye. E for existential hazard. Harsh. Accurate. He flipped a quill between his fingers and gestured toward the stairs. Go see Mother Miqo'te. She handles complicated cases. Once you stabilize, she'll upgrade you to D rank. Definitely there. Do I get paid then? Not well, but you'll at least qualify for complaints. Behind me, one of the adventurers whispered, What's after D rank? Gontran didn't look up from his ledger. Death! The pension's better. Lahabrea chuckled low in my mind. You'll fit right in here. Don't encourage him. Who? Asked the clerk. Nobody. Just a background noise. Gontran sighed again, long and hollow. Everyone's background noise in Gridania. Now move along before the lights start flickering again. The last time that happened, a conjurer tried to bless the desk, and we are still paying off the damages. I'll go see Miqo'te. Good. Tell her to stop sending me ghosts.